Have you ever heard the term silent majority? Have you felt like you could do more? Do you have a desire to help with local politics or make a difference in how the government operates? Is it overwhelming to think about? Those questions define me. They were me, but not anymore. This podcast is about our voice, our questions, our feelings, and working together to make a difference for the future. We believe that we must fight for our liberty or lose our freedoms. Join me as I speak to our friends and neighbors, our politicians and leaders, and discover ways that we all can make a difference in the direction of the United States of America. Hello and welcome to Liberty or Lose podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate all your comments. I am enjoying the political process here in Montana. And, there's a lot of things going on around the country. And all I can say to you, if you're listening, whether you're in Montana or another state, it's time to get involved. Find where the help is needed. Find your voice, find your passion, find your country, and do what you can for them. Because there's a lot of good people out there fighting for our freedoms, and we all need to rise up and do something, be a part of the process. These could be very exciting times for us as we see the results start to unfold. And I'm really looking forward to the 2022 elections. I've been working with some wonderful people in politics, not just here in Montana, but in California, and spoken to others in other states. And I just think we've got some great Americans rising to the occasion. And I'm really looking forward to what they can do if they're placed in office. And today is no exception to that point that I'm making. I've made a new friend here recently in the city of Kalispell, and his name is Rod Kuntz, and Rod is here in the studio with me. Rod, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah, we've talked a few times, and I've enjoyed our conversations. We've had lunch with the mayor, which was wonderful. Thank you for that introduction, and I hope we can do some wonderful things together. And, I felt like I knew you, but I didn't. And last week, I listened to you speak at the Pachyderm, and I was blown away, I was blown away. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Not bad for an introvert, right?
Well, it's funny because we had the conversation before. A mutual colleague of ours said, Montana values, they don't exist, or they're not what people say they are. And you said, well, that's interesting because that's what my entire presentation is on. And I said, I can't wait. And you said, yeah, wait till you hear how I lay this out or something like that. So I was really looking forward to it. And, man, you delivered the goods that day.
Well, I appreciate it, Jim. It was interesting because whenever you're talking Montana values and you've got people in the room that are not from Montana, and you'll remember I asked for a show of hands. If you came in late, there were over 80% of the room not from Montana.
Yeah.
So the important thing there is Montana values are not exclusive to Montana. Mm-hmm. Montana values are our country's values. They're our founders' values. Those are true Montana values.
I think that's a really good point because as you were going through them, and we're going to dig into this pretty hard today, as you were going through them, I thought, well, those resonate with me, and they resonated with me before I got here. What I think Montana does is it allows you to flourish within society here and showcase your values. And I think that a lot of us that came from another place don't want to lose that now that we realize, hey, our values are flourishing here. I'm able to showcase what I really believe in here, and I don't want to lose that.
I think you're absolutely right. And the people who come here, they're attracted by that, but it's also what keeps them here. And so when you're able to flourish, who wouldn't feel better? Mm-hmm. You're healthier, you're vibrant, you're living your purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what I see our values doing in Montana. They're bringing people's purpose to life.
I had a really interesting conversation with my neighbor. I don't want to say interesting. It was a really good conversation that gave me some perspective on values and the people here. I just purchased five yearlings, cows, in my pasture I've got next door. And my neighbor's like, oh, congratulations, that's awesome. He goes, how did you even know what to do? And I said, well, I didn't. But my farrier, Olin Hamilton, who's been working with my horses the last 2 years, I told him that I was interested, and he basically took me under his wing. And, being a city guy, used to be, I said, well, I'm happy to pay you for your time. I know this, you're kind of consulting me, just let me know. And he says, no, Jim. He goes, I just want to see you and your family do this as a family thing. You'll find that you'll get closer to your wife and your daughters by raising cattle and going through the process. And there's life and there's death and there's reward and there's assets for your family down the road and all these wonderful things. He says, I just want to help you do that. And I'm telling my neighbor this, and he's like, wow, that's awesome that you found somebody like that and that you're the person that he's willing to do that for. You're the type of person, right? Mm-hmm. And then we started talking about another mutual friend. His name is David Gamble, who's actually doing that for my neighbor. And there's no fee, right? It's just, we're here for you. And I think it's just a testament to the type of people that live here and their willingness to help one another. And I'll get off my horse here in a second, but I just feel like as somebody that's relatively new to this valley, that it's my job and duty to do that for others.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you see these values flourish and people flourish and the community that so many people are attracted to.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Jim, and it gets back to this was something I was going to talk about the other day and didn't get a chance to, but we have the Cliff Notes version to that in the preamble of the Constitution. We live the preamble here. Mm-hmm. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. Okay? We are promoting the general welfare. That's what we get to do. We get to help each other. That's promoting the general welfare. It's not a government job. It's a we the people job.
Yeah.
And we've got the Cliff Notes version in the preamble of the Constitution. So let's go with that. Let's get back to that. We don't need 9 justices in black robes in Washington, D.C. to tell us how to be good neighbors.
Yeah. It's interesting. I looked this up while you were talking. Old friend of mine in the state of California sent me this message. He said, here's today's gripe. For all those people who videotape acts of violence they see being perpetuated on others, or who videotape a rescue of some sort where those responding are struggling to help, I say put the F camera down and help. Get involved. Don't stand by and just watch. And I said, I agree with that. People are crazy, dumb to a degree, because that phone and that capturing of that on that video, because it's going to make them get more likes on social media, because that's what we've turned into. That's just the worst of society. It's the furthest thing away from what we're talking about helping our neighbor and what you just quoted about how this country was formed. And it's sad that really this isn't an isolated thing. This person, believe it or not, he doesn't even know what social media is. He doesn't even have a social media channel. So clearly he's seeing this somewhere. And for him to see that at his level of disconnectedness,
right?
How bad is it, right? And I think this is part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you today, is that when you dig into your values and what values are and what they mean, if we could just get one more person to listen to that and share with another person, I think that this entire country could be a lot more like Montana and what we've briefly described by a couple interactions here.
Maybe that's it. Instead of bringing people to Montana, we need to bring Montana to the people.
That's right. Be a lot better for us, right? It's not that big of a place. And by the way, it is cold here in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
Man, right? It is cold.
So cold.
What was that day last year? There was a record day up in Glacier, minus 45. I heard on the radio last year.
That's cold.
Yeah, it's cold. You don't want to live here.
That's cold even for me.
Yeah, the stores run out of warm apparel. So yeah, stay where you're at, and we'll bring Montana to you. By the way, hey, if you're local and you're listening to this show, and I'm going to give a little plug here for Rod, is that Rod is going to be running for city council in Kalispell.
Correct.
Right.
Ward 3.
Ward 3. So it's broken out into wards. You represent those people over there. So Ward 3 in Kalispell, he's going to be running. And Rod already did a term over there.
I did a couple, actually.
Uh-huh.
I did about 5.5 years.
Okay.
On city council. So I'm not a newbie, but I was a newcomer.
How long have you been away?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. And I'm going to just call Rod out a little bit here too. He's of the age where he was kind of done being involved in politics and just wanted to live his life a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you got the call from the mayor. Again, great guy. Thank you for the intro. You got the call from the mayor to what?
Well, he said, we need you back. We need you back on city council.
Yeah.
And the word was need, and asked me if I would consider running again.
Okay. So, and what a great call to get from somebody that you respect. I've learned to respect now that I know him a little bit better, and I love that town. What is the need?
Well, the need is some of the ideology that we see eroding the moral fabric of our country is trickling into local school boards, local city governments, local county governments. And that ideology is a self-serving ideology, a godless ideology, and everybody is equal. Well, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Everybody is equal, but they're equal to go out and pursue an opportunity equally.
Yeah.
That's it. So it was, we, getting back to the preamble again, we promote the general welfare. We don't provide for the general welfare.
Yeah.
And that ideology is one of trying to provide for the general welfare, and that doesn't help people.
Yeah.
People need to work, which gets to my first core value. There's value in work.
Yeah.
And if you're not working, you're lacking personal value.
Why is that voice for this ideology that's coming into this town that's so prevalent in our nation now? Why is that voice so loud? How come when I know for a fact, based on the voting numbers, that over 70% of this valley is Montana value conservative, shares the same beliefs, but our voice isn't half as loud as probably a 5% group. Why is that voice so loud? Why do we let them crowd us out and change the ways that have done things for so long?
I think for two things. Number one, we have good manners. So we're not the ones shouting and being boisterous and finding fault with everything. And then the second thing is we have a good attitude. Mm-hmm. Another core value. We tend to look at things positively, and we look further. We're long-range planners. We look ahead and look at the good thing that's coming, instead of looking at the bad thing we're in. Mm-hmm. We're always looking toward that positive outcome. And when you lose that, you get drowned out in the negative. Yeah. And people like negative. Negative sells on the news. Why don't we become photojournalists? We couldn't, because we have to go help.
we would be helping.
We would be helping, and no one would be recording, because we would.
And all pictures would be pretty pictures and no drama.
Exactly.
I think the other thing that a lot of people are lacking in society today, maybe that small percentage I was referring to, is common sense. I was at Teresa Manzella's house, who's down in Hamilton, Montana, south of here, for a fundraiser for my good friend John Fuller, who's running for Senate. And she got up and spoke to the group, and she says, look, people, it really comes down to common sense and applying that. And, when you think about that in a lot of the topics that we're hearing in the news or in our local communities here, like you said, work being one of those values. I'm proud to say that my mom is a recovered alcoholic of 35 plus years of sobriety now. And, one of the things that she's talked about in that program, and she's very involved in the program still, is she says, we cannot be enablers of an alcoholic. And I know that a lot of people have dealt with alcoholism in their lives, probably almost everybody at one point or another. And I think everybody's heard that term, enabler, right, and the dangers of being an enabler. And when you look at these cities that are being enablers of the homeless and the drug problems, and the list goes on, you're not doing them any favors. Just look at the book of AA.
Exactly.
Look at the big book, as they call it, and apply that and some common sense to some of the problems we're looking at, right?
Absolutely. And common sense is the critical component to all of this. And it's so abstract. How do you define common sense? And I define